Hello and welcome back to the show. So I am super excited to be joined by our guest today, Coach Katie Weldon, who is also known as Katie the Mortgage Lady, and she is a coach for real estate professionals and also a mortgage professional as well, who has helped over 1,200 families and managing over $250 million in loans. So she knows quite a bit about the real estate industry, about business, about being an entrepreneur, and she is able to translate that success in her business to help others in the real estate industry acquire a better professional and also personal life as well. So today we're going to be talking all about how you can be a better entrepreneur, how you can be a better real estate agent, whether you're seasoned or new and just looking for a fresh start. I know, in this market, a lot of agents are struggling a little bit. So we're going to be digging into a lot of that as well as how to have professional and personal life harmony as well. So Katie, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you join us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. We have definitely done quite a number of deals, and that's given me a lot of knowledge, both good and bad. And I love to share insights so that other people don't make the same mistakes maybe I did.
Yeah, and that is so important, right? And I always say like the only reason we make mistakes is so that we can learn from them in the future.
A
We're
lot
all
of learning, a lot of learning.
exactly. So yeah, so before we dig right on in, I would love for you to be able to kind of share your background a little bit and tell us just a little bit about who you are, and how you got into kind of the mortgage and real estate industry, and really how you became a coach, and really how that journey played out.
Okay, absolutely. So yeah. Hi, my name is Katie Weldon, also known as Katie the Mortgage Lady and Coach Katie. So wear a couple different hats. So I started by working in restaurants. I had my degree in hospitality. And through that, I was able to really learn a lot about customer service, which was fantastic. I went to college for hospitality and made my own major, including marketing and classes in management, different things like that. And what happened was I was working for Xerox, so I was in sales. I did cold calling for Xerox. I would sell copiers and manage print services. And I was doing that when a job came up at my local bank, and a friend of mine said, you'd be really good at this. And I had no idea what even a mortgage was. Okay. I didn't own a home. I just had no clue. And I'm like, I don't know. Like that doesn't really feel like it would work for me. And she's like, really, Katie, I think you'd be so, so good at this. So I applied for the job and it was already taken. And so I was like, no big deal. It's fine. And then the head of mortgages saw my application. He loved that I had the real estate background, that I had, the sales training through Xerox. And he knew my father, who was a real estate agent at the time, and was like, I really feel like this girl would be great at mortgages. And so he kind of took a shot on me and hired me. I was an outside originator. So I started with kind of a set draw, if you will, or salary, but I had to earn it. So it wasn't just given to me. And so that was really tough to start, but I got great training and I just started making connections with agents and just learning like what do they love about the people they're working with? What do they wish the people they're working with were doing that they weren't? And I just started doing the things they loved more and doing less of the things they didn't want any part of and built my network over time. I really think that just the care I put into everything I did, I friended all my clients on Facebook and I kind of mesh personal and business, and that works for me really well because I love that everything's combined. I'll share stories with clients that are more personal, but I'll take more of a consultative approach, which I think they really appreciate. So that was kind of my secret to success, just really being consultative. I would take anything. So great, you have a client who is denied at another bank, send them my way. I'll put a plan together for them. You have a client who is frustrated with services, like put them in my hands. I promise you they will not be disappointed. So just by creating those relationships or even taking down those loans that others didn't want really allowed me to develop the relationships with the agents more. And pretty much all of my business is agent driven. So we're one of the top lenders in Massachusetts as well for their down payment assistance program. And I've been that probably for 5 years now in the top, which has been amazing. And I moved down to Florida about a year and a half ago. So I lend in all of New England and Florida. And really just with the market the way it is right now, I would say the biggest disconnect I see with agents is I feel like they're angry when they get a call, like a prospect call, like they're so annoyed, right? Like, oh God, so I'll answer it when I can. And it's like, why are we so annoyed at business trying to come our way? Right? I am so grateful. And I'm not saying I've never felt that way because it's usually a sign of burnout. But when I look at my phone and don't want to answer it, and it could be a client, like there's something going on and needs to be paid attention to. So I will say the number one thing I think a lot of agents could really see some instant success in is pick up your phone when you can. And if you can't, like if I'm on a podcast right now, obviously I can't pick up my phone. And so I'm going to say, like, I'm going to text them if I can, and say, hey, I'm in a meeting right now. So I have auto text set up on my phone. So if someone calls me, I can automatically text them. And it's ones that three that I've created and choose from. Hey, I'm in a meeting right now. I'll give you a call when I'm able to, or text me in the meantime. But I try to like be as responsive as I can. Like I don't just look at my phone and not answer it because I'm just shooting the shit with someone. If I can answer it, I answer it. And pardon my language, I apologize. That just slipped out. But yeah, so for me, just there's a lot of little things that agents do that I think they could move the needle really quickly by making these small little shifts and just taking their business seriously in a different way.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you've worked with agents, your business is mostly agent driven, so you kind of see the inside kind of track of what real estate agents are doing on a day-to-day
Oh yeah,
basis.
and they're not created all equal. You know what I mean? And in my opinion, you could be the worst skilled agent and have the best experience because of the care that you're putting into what you do.
Yeah, just being able to provide care, if put it that way, to your clients. I think that's probably one of the most important things that clients want from a real estate agent,
Absolutely.
because they don't really understand a lot about the real estate industry, and agents usually, as far as their knowledge and skill sets goes, is more or less the same, or maybe some person knows a little bit more, or another agent knows a little bit less. But the more that you take the time out, like you said, to respond to your clients and your prospects, to communicate with them constantly, to give them updates, I think that's probably what separates the really great agents who people love to work with versus the ones that they're not so great, that people don't really want to work with.
Oh, absolutely. And like the thing is that we're in a very instant world. Okay. People can go online and order something that's delivered to their doorstep, maybe even the same day, depending on where you are. So when they call someone and they just don't hear, they're not as likely to leave a message. And so me texting them, it's like, oh, I got interaction, like something's happening. I find they're more likely to wait a minute before just calling the next loan officer on a list.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, hey, she got back to me. This is great. And I'll try to, if I can, if I'm not in a meeting like this where I have to really be paying attention, I'll try to text him and say, like, hey, are you available at 4:30? Awesome. Let me give you a call then. And I'll know what my schedule is so I can create that. But people love knowing when they're going to talk to you. So just that quick response if I can. And it doesn't matter if I'm on a boat. I could be on a boat all day and be like, hey, great, I should be freed up around 5:30. Can you chat then? I'll plan it around what I'm doing, depending on the situation. But most of the time I try to talk to the client, at least, even if I'm out on a boat. I'm using that example because people sometimes are like, but I'm on the boat right now and I really need to be in the moment. And that's great, but it's also really important to me to grow my business. And so if you're at a point where you don't care if your business grows, no problem. Like push them off. That's fine. I respect that. I'm in grind mode and I want as much business as I can. So taking 5 minutes and still enjoying the rest of the afternoon is how I like to manage things if I can.
Yeah, and that's so important, right? Because you have to figure out kind of what people say what season you're in, right? So if you're in
Oh,
the season of like you're trying to grow your business, then you should absolutely, at the very least, set up systems, right? And that's kind of what I want to ask you, because you mentioned you have auto text set up, you have all some type of system set up where you're not losing out on leads, even though you may not be physically present at that time. So what are some systems that you suggest agents should be setting up?
so auto text I think is great, because I can tell you if I call an agent and they text me back and say, hey, I'm on the other line right now, but I'll call you back as soon as I can. Like I know it's an auto text, but I appreciate it. So like I said, I have three different ones. One is in a meeting, one is on the other line. I forget what the third one is right now. I'm drawing a blank, but like you can create whatever like the three most common situations are, but on the other line and in a meeting are probably going to be two you want to do, or I'm trying to think of the third one. The third one might even just be whatever was already there. I don't know, but I definitely use those two all the time, the in a meeting and on the other line. And I tell them too, for a quicker response, feel free to text and I may be able to get back to you sooner. It says it right in there. And that says it on my voicemail too, because sometimes I'm in a meeting where it might be even a Zoom or a training. I can't step out and call, but I can text. So, I like that interaction if I can. So that would be one thing. I also use Calendly, which is a online booking link, which I know that you use as well. It's so convenient. And so I have different links set up with agents sometimes. So sometimes it'll say like mortgage consultation for XYZ agent. And that way they can send their client a link to book a call directly with me. On my website, it has the option to book a call right there. And then when someone does an application, we send them a link to book a discovery call to go over everything. So we really like to keep it automated for a couple of reasons. One, if they have to reschedule for any reason, it's super non-invasive for them to do that, because what I have found is people are more likely to miss an appointment than reschedule if they have to call you on it because they like don't know what to do. Especially if it's an emergency, right? Something comes up, your daughter's homesick from school. It's nice that they can go and just reschedule right on your calendar, right on their calendar. Love it. It sends automatic notifications for reminders. It's like, don't forget, we're 15 minutes before your scheduled appointment. And sometimes people just forget. Not everyone is as calendar driven as I am. Like, I'm very calendar driven. Most people would probably like faint at the sight of my calendar because I've got like wake up, meditation, 2 mile walk. Like I've got it drilled in there. And I'm not saying I hit it every time, but I follow my calendar. It's kind of my Bible and I follow it every day. So if it's not in my calendar, like you do not exist, I'm so sorry. I mean that in the best way possible. That's why even if someone calls or I'm like, hey, can I call you at 5:30? It goes right in the calendar so that I don't forget. So Calendly has been a great tool for me. And I think realtors could use it too. Hey, schedule a consult call with me. And someone can go right to your website and schedule a call with you later today. That's awesome. It also allows me to like stick to my schedule, because if they're booking a time that works for theirs, it's only going to show the times that I'm available. And I also tell people, listen, if you don't see anything that works for your schedule, let me know. We'll do our best to squeeze you in, because then I'm going to be able to make a concession on my own accord. I'm not just like, it used to be that someone would call me and be like, oh, could you do Tuesday at 11? I'm like, no problem. And I was shifting my whole schedule around theirs. And I'm like, that doesn't really work as you get busier. Like when you do a certain amount of production, you can no longer manage your calendar like that. And so by having it be in their best times, it just really works for everyone. So the automatic text and Calendly are two of the things I use the most.
Yeah, that's, Calendly is one of the best tools I think I've ever found personally,
Oh, I
just
love it.
because, it allows you to do what you were just saying, which is manage your schedule without having to, manually book every appointment. And then because when you start doing that, right, especially I think in the beginning for real estate agents or entrepreneurs or anybody in sales, really, you tend to, block out time or rearrange your entire day or even maybe your entire week for maybe that one appointment, right? Because you're trying to get as many appointments as you
You don't
possibly
want to
can.
miss out on an opportunity. But the thing is, how many times have you called a specialty doctor and then be like, oh yeah, what time do you want to get in? Right? Like I need my knee replaced. Oh, sure. What time do you want to come? Dr. Jim is very flexible. It's like, is he? Is he good? He's not good. I would love for more doctors to use like an online booking platform, honestly, because that would be so much easier. But how easy would it be if you could just go online, but you would look at what they have available. And if I went on and a doctor has like 100, availabilities, I'm like, are they good? Right? It's concerning. So when you get to a certain level, like your schedule fills up fast as well. And so this allows them to kind of sneak in where they can. And you get it right in your calendar exactly when you're available. And the other thing is too, I find is a lot of agents aren't really scheduled as far as like what their day entails. So something like Calendly really forces them to be scheduled, because if they don't put it in their calendar and someone books at that time, then it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I saw you just booked this, but I can't do that time. It like forces them to maintain their calendar more as well, which it's a great tool either way, right? So I love it. I use it all the time. And I do a lot of templates. So I guess that would be my third one. So I noticed I was having the same conversations over and over again, like, oh, thank you so much for calling. Are you guys ready? Let's say I got an email introduction to someone. I now say, hey, if you're ready to apply, here's the application link. And if you want to chat first, here's a link to talk to us. So I was doing the same emails all the time. And so I came up with templates and I can just kind of insert them very quickly. And it's great because it's still personalized in my own voice and it gets the message across without having to type, a 500-word email every time.
Right, exactly. So those are all great time-saving tools, which is very important
Yes.
as, a busy entrepreneur is how can you save as much time as possible
Yep.
in your day so you can do more, right?
Mhm.
So, one of the other things that I was really curious about is, you were in mortgages in the beginning and, obviously you deal with, work with, not deal with, work with a lot of agents. So is that kind of the transition that you made and that you chose to make to become a coach for other people in the real estate industry, or how did that kind of come about?
So it started by having my own coaches and seeing how much that impacted my life because I started with a mortgage coach specifically. Her name is Jen Duplessis. She's fantastic. And everything was very related to mortgages, like, oh, go to this open house, or here's a template for a script for a realtor, or here's how to follow up, or here's a process system, which was awesome. And I really appreciate it. And I learned so much. I grew my business, very quickly to 55 million from there. And then I had a personal coach and I realized how much better my life got. So I was able to still do the volume, but also improve my life. And I was like, realtors need this. They need this guidance, because it's not just about being more productive. It's also about how do we have a better quality of life. And if I can make happier agents who are making more money, I'm going to get more business. So that's kind of how it started is I just organically was partnering with agents who I worked with, giving them advice, helping them grow their business. Their business was growing. I was getting more clients and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, that's really cool how, you notice how your life got a lot better when you got a personal coach as well,
Yeah.
because a lot of people
I
don't
can't
think about
even, I can barely even put it to words because my life is so different than it was 3 years ago. I mean, I was burnt out. I would cry. If a deal started going wrong, I would just bawl my eyes out. And I just took everything so personally into heart. And there is a balance between caring about your clients, but also being able to be there for them and being rational and understand how to fix the problem because I couldn't fix the problem when I was in the problem.
it. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it, right? You can't fix a problem if you're in the
No,
problem or
you cannot solve a problem in the same energy it's created. It is physics. It just can't be done. And how many times have you been like, okay, I'm just gonna go for a walk for a second and we'll figure it out. And then the answer comes to you. But if you just stay in it, it will not come to you.
yeah, and stressing yourself out like on purpose. I think a lot of agents say they think they need to be like stressed or they can't get things done or not doing enough. Do you feel
So
that way?
I think they don't realize that they feel powerful when they're involved and doing things. And sometimes those things aren't actually getting them more business. So yeah, they're responding or feel like they're handling a fire, but that fire was in a trash basket that was going to put itself out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It all the time that like that superhero agent comes to the rescue and it's like you didn't have to be involved. Like thank you for being available and accountable and this problem worked its way out without you ever needing to say a thing. And you see the more successful agents, they'll even text me and be like hey, I see what's going on. If you need me, just let me know because they know from experience it's gonna fizzle out.
It's opportunity cost, I think. There's an opportunity cost on everything, including our time. Every choice we make, if we're choosing to do one thing, what we're not realizing is we're choosing not to do something else, right? So if we're choosing
Yeah.
fire,
Yeah, yes, 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 yes. Love
we're
that.
choosing not to get more business.
Yep. It's so true. You're choosing not to get more business by choosing to insert yourself where you don't necessarily be needed.
Yeah. So, it's funny how, you brought up work-life balance, work-life harmony was kind of the reason why you end up becoming a coach for other real estate professionals. I think at this time in the market, a lot of agents are not having a lot of work-life balance, or maybe they are, but it's not by choice, right? Because they're not getting so much business that, they can't have any personal time. So what is your advice to agents now who are maybe struggling, or maybe they're entering the real estate industry? You can only imagine somebody who's new to the real estate industry coming into this market. What is your advice to people who are in that headspace who there's nothing going right, there's anxiety everywhere. They don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will.
I feel like there's a lot of agents in that mode right now. And one thing I would say is start by being grateful for every call you receive. Like really look at your phone and say, ah, yes, my phone is ringing. Thank you. Like, thank you so much for calling and answer if you can. I believe that depending on the season you're in, like we had discussed before, it matters how you handle things. But for me, if I'm out on the lake one day and I'm enjoying myself with my family and my phone rings, I try to answer as best I can. And that doesn't mean I'm dropping everything to have a full mortgage consultation or whipping out my computer. I do personally bring my computer with me because it makes me feel like if something came up that I really need to address, I can. And I can tell you that 90% of the time I don't use that computer because of how I handle my business. And 10% of the time, I have a client who's ready, willing, and able to make an offer and they want to get pre-approved. Like, heck yeah, thank you. I want to be ready for that. But that's the season I'm in. I'm growing my business. And so if you're growing your business, do business like whenever you can. So I'm going to give you an example. I was trying to help a client who had a friend who is looking for a commercial loan. And it's like a $2.5 million loan on a property in Boston. And I called 3 different people. One said, hey, this is my view today. They were at the lake, which is awesome. They're like, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Another one said, hey, I'm on vacation. I'll get back to you Monday. And then another one, their phone just went straight to voicemail and he emailed me and said, hey, thank you. I'll get back to you Monday. But not like no one really even looked at my email, which I sent them a property because commercial loans are totally different, not my forte. Maybe they all can do them. Maybe none of them can do this. I literally have no idea. So I would have personally appreciated, like, as someone who's just an outsider trying to make a connection for my client, is this something you can even do? Like, did you even look at my email or anything? And I'm not asking you to dissect it, but look at it quickly and be like, yeah, it looks like we could do something like this. Not one person addressed the email that I actually sent them. Like, hey, is this something you can do? Not one out of the 3. And it just blows my mind. And it's like that little bit for me would have made all the difference. Because if I really wanted to get this situated today, like I'm not going to spin my wheels. It's not my loan. If it was me looking for someone, those 3 people, no offense, would be gone. I would start looking Monday for someone else because I want someone who cares enough about their business to at least like, let me know, is this even possible with you? Because I don't know what you lend on. And that's really the approach I've taken in my business is I would look at the email and say, hey, it's a lot more complicated than just looking at this email. But like, could you schedule a time with me Monday to go over it? And I would. Okay, great. At least I know like there's action taken, or hey, absolutely. We lend on properties like this all the time. I really think I can help your friend. Do you want to give them my info and have them connect with me Monday, or do you want me to reach out to them? Like, I'm not the client. I'm just trying to make a connection. And that was kind of clear too. So it's like, the way they all responded, I'm like, this all could have been responded differently. And this is no offense to them. They're all great people if they hear this, I'm sorry, it's nothing against you. It's just like, this is a mentality, right? Everyone thinks I'm on a break and I need a break. And I totally appreciate that. But for me, taking 5 minutes for a $2.5 million deal would have gone a long way.
Oh yeah, I think so as well. I think it's funny how they responded, right? When they say they can't get back to you. So they obviously saw that there was something there,
Yeah.
and they took the time to respond, but they didn't take the time, maybe just a couple minutes more to look it over and say, hey, I'm excited to work with you on this, or
Yeah, I feel like we miss the questions being asked sometimes. So I'll give you an example. And I have a team of people, and I happen to be on a Zoom with one of them today for a team meeting, and an agent called, so he fielded that call. And on the call, the agent said, we had someone else, and the deal fell apart, and it wasn't anything with the lender. It was more the buyer got cold feet, and we're just worried. And he went into great detail about how this deal wouldn't fall apart because of what we do. But he never really addressed her question and said, don't worry, my client's very motivated, loves this house, and is ready to move forward. And so when he hung up, I'm like, hey, I don't know if you noticed this, but she asked a question you never answered. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't even know. And it's like, are we listening to people and what they're actually asking? Yes. Do I think she needed to know that not only is this client ready to move forward, but she's in great hands because we're going to get it over the finish line with all the due diligence we did up front? Yes. And people want their questions actually answered. When they ask something, it's like people tell us their concerns all the time, and we just, ignore them. Oh, I'm worried I'm not going to get pre-approved. Oh, don't worry, we'll go through the application, and we'll double check everything to make sure you're approved. It's like, you didn't really address their concern. So I try to say something like, hey, listen, even if you're not pre-approved right now, we'll put a plan together so that you can buy something in the future. So your time's not wasted here, because their concern is being approved. So me telling them that I'm going to like try my best to approve them doesn't necessarily address their general concerns. So like for me, it's all about listening to what people are really asking and what's underlying. So if you're asking a question, why does that matter? Oh, they probably don't want to waste my time or theirs. So let's make it valuable for both of us.
Yeah, being able to listen to people, in a consultation, in a first meeting, or even just, when you're talking to your clients, that I think is probably one of the more important things that, a real estate agent needs to be working on
Yep.
is listening, right? Because everybody has a different problem. Everybody has different concerns. Real estate, buying or selling real estate, it's not, there's a lot of questions and a lot of moving parts that go into it. And they just want really, I think, going back to what we were talking about before, probably they just want somebody to be there to help ease those concerns, right? There's not, there's a lot of, I think, from the outside looking in the real estate industry, there's agents, there's a lot of things that they can't do physically,
Mhm.
like they can't actually do certain things, right? They can only help to a certain extent.
Yep.
But in order to separate yourself, are you listening to your clients, right? As a professional? Are you helping them ease their concerns? Are you sharing your knowledge with them? I think those are probably the most important things that you could
Yeah.
be.
And I'll give you a common example of that, if I approve a client for 375, sometimes I'll tell an agent, hey, listen, they really want to be around 350 based on the monthly payment. They can go up to 375 for like the most perfect house, and they'll show them all 375. And I'm like, you're not listening. And the client will say to me, well, they show me this 375, but it's two bedrooms and I really want three. Like I just told you exactly like if it's the perfect house. So it has to fit the guidelines in order for it to be in the price range. Like, are you listening? It happens all the time.
Yeah. So that's pretty funny how, that's something that you're running into all, as even a mortgage professional that agents are not listening or they're not just kind of on the go. What do you think the problem is? Do you think it's just they're just so aggressive or out there or you're
No,
not
I
really
think I think people have blinders on all the time, and so they might not even hear it. Like, so it's really nothing against them. It's just they see a pre-approval for 375. They're not even reading my email. I try to call and go over it with an agent if there's a certain situation like that. But I think they just like put a search up and then just kind of like go into autopilot a little bit. And that's one thing that makes me different about how I do business is like I have different goals for every conversation. So if I'm talking to someone for the first time, my goal is to get them to do an application because that's going to be how I get them in my system. That's how I'm going to be able to keep track of them. It's really hard to keep track of someone who maybe calls you once and then disappears. It's like when you have so many coming in, once I have an application, I have their info, I can stay in touch with them. So my goal on a first call is get them to do an application. Let's start the process. And then my goal in the second call is they've already done an application and we're going over it. So I have kind of goals for every call, if you will, and every stage in the process. And so like really it's understanding what's working for them too. If I have a client who's buying and selling at the same time, their house is under agreement already on the sales side. I'm approaching it slightly different because of what their needs are. It's very fast. It's like, hey, listen, we can do things very quickly for you. Like, here's like how we can help you get a house, as quickly as possible within your time frame because they only have so much time to find something before that buyer is no longer interested. Most of them have kind of like a hey, we must be under agreement by X amount date. And so I'm just making sure that I handle each one based on their situation and with as much understanding and compassion as I can. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I go through phases where that's not how I handle my business, but in general, that's really how I do business anyways. So it's very naturally how I conduct things.
Yeah, so I mean that's so important, right? When you mentioned that you have a goal for every single consultation you have
Yep.
with a specific client or prospect, I think that is something that not enough realtors, real estate agents are doing. They're just kind of talking to people, and I guess some people are out there trying to close a deal on their first call. I guess it's kind
No,
of
my thing is like, what's the next step? So if I have a call, the next step is to do an application. Once they do the application, my next step is to email them the link to book a consultation. And then the next step is to have a consultation. And I tell them my goal is to issue a pre-approval within 24 hours of the consultation, provided you've already emailed us your documents, because I want them to know, hey, listen, if you do your thing, I'll do my thing. There's a lot of people who call me and they're like, I applied with Rocket Mortgage 2 weeks ago. I have no idea what's going on my application. Now, maybe they didn't upload anything, but no one's really telling them what to do. So they're kind of just lost in the shuffle. And I'm like, yeah. So our goal is to get you to do the application and upload any relevant documents. And then once we talk on the phone, our hope is to get you pre-approved within 24 hours because I don't want it to sit either, because when something sits, it's a lot harder to manage. Because there's clients sometimes it's like, oh, based on your situation, we need an extra pay stub from last year. Whenever that happens, it can add time to the mix. And whenever you're adding time, it's easy to lose track of. Like, I don't want to manage clients that way. It's too hard. It takes too much of my time. I can't do $100 million in loans if I'm micromanaging my clients to try and get that information. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the reasons that you absolutely need to have a goal at the end of the call or each of the or a consultation, right? If it's in person, it's the same thing, is the last thing you want to happen is you don't want to have a great conversation with somebody and then have them and you not have any
I've
idea.
had that happen and I'm like, wait, what's next? Like, I don't know. Shoot. I don't know the mortgage. Like most people don't know how a mortgage works or how buying a house works. Like it's something you don't do very often. It's like if someone's not setting the expectation or telling me what the goal is, then I don't know what's next for me or what you want me to do. And people, when held accountable, I find are very responsive.
Yeah, because they're not going to reach out to you, right? We always think that they might, we had such a great conversation or such great rapport. They're
Oh,
going to
and
reach
they
out to
think
me.
I'm ghosting them because I haven't reached out to them. So like, oh, that we loved that girl, but she never called us. And I've done that before and not intentionally, just time gets away from you and all of a sudden it's 2 weeks later. So the other little kind of like trick that I do is if I talk to someone, I'll say, hey, if you don't hear from me, because it's sometimes if I'm waiting on other people, it's out of my hands. But I'll say, listen, if you don't hear from me by Thursday afternoon, check in with me. So I also put it on them to let them know it's okay to check in if you haven't heard from me because I expect to have an answer by then, but things can get away from me. And they appreciate that. I'm not being rude about it. I'm like, I'm not saying you're not important. I'm just saying, hey, I love having that. I'm like, I actually tell people, if I don't hear from you by this date, can I check back in? But most people don't do that. So most of the time I'll say, listen, if you don't hear from me by Thursday, call me back because in the past, had clients who we're waiting on something from me and maybe I was waiting in an answer and I already did what I needed to by emailing the right person, but I hadn't heard back yet. Then it slips my mind, then it's off the radar, then it's 2 weeks later and they're like, my lender hasn't got back to me for 2 weeks. I'm like, shoot, I don't want that to happen. I want to avoid it as much as possible.
Right. Yeah. So I think, we're all afraid, I think, in the beginning, especially to follow up with clients, right? Real estate agents, people, in any type of business where, in reality, you need to be following up with them because they're waiting for you to reach out back to them, right? After those
Yep.
first couple conversations
Yep.
and setting the right expectations. I love what you said there about, asking people, hey, if you don't hear from me, follow back up with me, or the other way around, right? So if I don't hear from you for this amount of time, is it okay for me to contact you next Thursday, or what's a good time for me to reach back out to you so that you have some time to look over this stuff, right? Set those expectations before you follow back up with them. I think that will ease your nerves a lot more when you are actually reaching back out to people and not feeling like you're bothering them or disrupting.
Absolutely. And I can't tell you how many clients, sometimes I reach out 7 different times. I have one client, I called him 4 times before he finally did the application. And he was like, thank you so much for checking in. And then I called him another 3 before he actually booked the consult call, like 7 times for the sales cycle. But like I knew what the next step was. And so I'm like, hey, how's that application coming? He wants to buy a house. He just is busy and losing sight of it. So like I don't feel bad. If they don't want me to call them, my guess is ultimately I'll reach out to them so many times. They're like, can you stop calling me? I'm like, no problem.
Right. Yeah. If somebody doesn't want you to keep reaching out to them, they'll.
They will tell you. They will get annoyed with you and tell you, or they're blocking you and you don't notice, but that's fine. I'll check in as many times as I can.
I think that's the right attitude to have as a somebody in sales or as a salesperson is you can't be attached to, like, you have to have empathy and
And you can't
understanding.
take everything so personally. So it used to be that I would text someone and I'm like, I texted them twice. They haven't got back to me. So I was kind of like personally offended by it. And no offense to me in that role, I didn't know. And someone said that to me, like, don't take it so personally. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know why. I do. And I realized how many times have people messaged me when I genuinely care about whatever it is I'm doing with them. And my daughter comes in from the other room. She's 4. I have a 4 and a 9-year old. Or my dog throws up and I'm like about to text them back. I mean, you just don't know. Or I'm in a meeting and I'm like, well, I'll get back to them later. And I just forget. Like, there's plenty of times when I haven't got back to people when I wanted to, and it was very unintentional. And I just assume that everyone is similar, right? And they all have the same intentions, like, oh, I'll get back to her after work, I'll get back to her after this. And they just lose sight of it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. You can't, if you're in sales, you're in business, you can't take everything personally
No,
because,
because honestly, most of the time it's not personal. And when it is, most people will tell you, hey, stop calling me. I don't want a mortgage anymore. No problem. Sounds great. Good luck
and,
with the thing.
yeah. And if it's a personal, right? If like they have some kind of issue towards you, that's probably not somebody you would want to work with anyways, right? It's not gonna,
No, and most of the time it's a reflection of them.
yeah,
Yeah. Like
exactly.
that's another thing I learned over time is really not to take much personally at all because it's usually their situation. I'll give you the rate example. Rates are a hot topic and they're improving this week, which is amazing. So very, very grateful because that's helped a lot of my clients this week. But it's a hot topic. Oh, hey, I don't know if we want to move forward. Your rate's high. And if I just took that personally, it's like, well, high compared to what? And it's like, well, we want the lowest rate. It's like, of course. But people don't realize that with that lowest rate can come higher costs. And so my goal is to advise them best on what that sweet spot is, because I do foresee an area over the next year or two that we're going to be able to refinance. So I don't want them paying, tens of thousands of dollars to get the lowest rate possible right now, because that doesn't make sense. So like I used to take offense to it. It's like, oh, they don't want to work with me or they think my rate's high. And it was like, no, they just don't know. And I need to educate them and work with them and help them understand how things are broken down, you know? And if they're mad about it, you don't even know. They could have almost gotten in an accident on the way home. Someone flipped them off. Now they're just pissed. Now the rate's higher than it was when they first started. So they're just angry and their payment's $100 more and they're taking it out on you. Like you just have no idea sometimes the situation that someone's in. And so it's not always a reflection of what you're doing or who you are.
Right. And we've all had situations like that, right? When we're not ourselves, right? Like
Oh, never. I have an alter ego. So this is kind of funny, and I encourage everyone to do this. I have an alter ego named Vicky. And so I call her kind of bitchy Vicky. So if I'm maybe reacting in a way where my team's like, this is not normal, Katie, they'll just say, Vicky, you want to call me back? I'm like, no problem, Vicky, I'll call you back. So I've given permission to them, to my husband, to my kids, to call me Vicky if I'm being a little strange or maybe emotional or doing something that's unlike my normal character.
yeah, that's very good. That's a very good
It takes
strategy.
the energy out of it. It's hard to be mad when someone's like, Vicky, do you want to rethink what you're saying? And you're like, yeah, sounds good.
It's bringing awareness, right? You're allowing people to
Yeah.
bring you
Because you
awareness.
don't realize sometimes if you are in that zone, because it's like, yes, someone maybe just hung up on me and I did a cold call, or someone cut me off on the highway or honked at me. And I'm like, were they honking at me? Was I doing anything wrong? I don't know. And you just feel like everything's going crazy and you're like, what is happening right now? And you can take that internally and act in a different way than you're used to.
Absolutely. So, and I think just to wrap up today's episode, it offered a ton of value for us already. I, really enjoyed, what you had to share with us.
Thank
Um,
you.
avoiding burnout, right? I think that's a very important topic that a lot of agents need to kind of understand a little bit because everybody experiences burnout, not just in a bad market, maybe even a good market, right? Less likely, but it still happens. So, what do you suggest agents do if they're experiencing burnout? How do you how can you be aware of it so you can catch it
Yeah.
early and what should you be doing?
Yeah. So for the ones who are just really so busy that they can't manage everything, my advice is to figure out what you can delegate. Whether it be your cleaning of your house, your laundry, or getting a transaction coordinator. If you're really just so busy that you can't manage what you have going, delegate and hire. There's a lot of cheap services out there that can help you manage your workflow. If it's someone that's kind of burnt out because they feel like they're working so hard and not earning any money, I would encourage you to look at what you're really doing. Like, what does your time really entail? Because what I find most often is like, okay, yeah, you're starting work at 10 o'clock and maybe you're going to TJ Maxx in the middle of a Tuesday. And then maybe you're doing a load of laundry. Like, that's all fine if we're making up the time, but most of the time we aren't. So we're like, let's say we're working, I work 10 to 3 every day, bust my ass. And it's like, you were just at TJ Maxx for an hour in the middle of your day, or you were just doing your laundry. like you're not working. So look at the time that you're actually working, what you're putting in, because my guess is it's not as much as you think it is. And so by creating a schedule for yourself and being more conscious of the time and what you're doing in each time, you can do things a lot quicker. I schedule breaks in my day. So, today I think I had 7 appointments or something, but like I also had breaks in there. If I didn't schedule those breaks, I very quickly could get burnt out every single day. So if you're an agent who's showing someone, let's say you're working with someone out of town and showing them 6 houses, schedule a break in between. They will appreciate it. Talk, like go grab an ice cream or something, bring a granola bar, sit in a park. I don't care. And ask them what they thought of the first 3 houses. And ask them what, yeah, what are your thoughts? Are you thinking about putting in an offer? What do you like so far? What do you not like so far? Like, because it can be stressful when you're running from one thing to the next. And just by like stepping back and having a valuable conversation can be really refreshing for you, I find. And sometimes for me, it's getting outside for a minute or petting my dog, like just giving a little dog love in the middle of the day. I'm just like, I need to sometimes just step away, and people don't do that. They're like, I just need to push through, push through. It's like sometimes you need a minute. It's okay to take a minute. And I schedule also, I'm very calendar driven, as I mentioned before, but I schedule personal stuff in there as well, like date night, or we try to do a night with my daughters once a week where my husband takes one daughter and I take the other, and we let them sleep in a bed with us and we watch a movie. And like it's calendarized because that's downtime that I enjoy. So if you want to read for a couple hours a day, like put it in your calendar, make sure you do that. Meditation is important to me. Love to start my day out with meditation. It's in my calendar because I like to start with a clear head. So I would say the best way is really just like having a plan, any plan, and sticking to it. Because when you have a plan, you're not kind of creating a day from chaos. You're creating your day by design.
I love that. Create your day by design, right? Not by what's other people are
Create
pulling.
your life by design.
Yeah, exactly. Because every day, right? That's what makes up your life. Is if every single day you're just reacting, then that's what your life is. Because that's what makes up your entire, your life is the every single day and every single moment, right? Are you designing it, or are you just reacting to what's going on around you?
And that's a big difference in the energy. When you're constantly reacting, you're burning out.
Yeah.
It's just like tires spinning without, touching the road or having the brake on too. It's like you're not going to go anywhere.
Yep, exactly. So, Katie, I just want to say thank you for being on the show today. You shared a ton of value with us here today, and I'm really grateful for our conversation. And for anybody out there who is listening to this or watching this that want to learn a little bit more about what you do, maybe want to work with you, right? Have you be their coach, or maybe want to work with you, if they're a real estate agent for, their mortgage needs for their clients as well. What are some of the best ways for them to reach you, or maybe follow you on social media, or
Yeah,
where you?
they can definitely follow me. So I'm online at Katie Simpson Weldon. So it's KATIESIMPSONWELDON. You can find my website, katieweldon.com, or my team website, Team Katie. So everything is Katie, KATIE. And I'm everywhere. I also have a group called the Katie Collective, and collective is with a K. And that's kind of my coaching group. I've been a little silent from there, and I'm going to be resurrecting that soon as well. But I'm always just posting little tips or doing a live to share knowledge that I've learned. People can private message me as well and connect. But I'm really looking to make more partners, especially in the New England and Florida area, because I'm able to lend there. And so I want to help their business grow, in turn feed my mortgage business, and just still do more of what I love. Because I love mortgages, but I love, love, love coaching. It's like my passion.
I love that. And we'll make sure to leave the links in the description and the show notes down below. So that way you guys can reach out to Katie directly, maybe partner up with her as an agent, or have her be your coach as well. She's definitely shared a ton of knowledge. And I just want to thank you again for being on the show today. And before we let you leave here, is there any last pieces of advice you would like to leave with the audience?
Oh man. Ask yourself what you could be doing different, because we have the answers within.
That's great advice. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Katie. Thank
My
you for
pleasure.
tuning in. We'll
Thank
see you.
you.